Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. We're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, entitled Questions by King Parikshit. We're on text 16, and today's January 8th, 2021. Text 16 of Chapter 8, Canto 2.
Recording?
I am recording. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Pramanam Andakoshasya Bhaya Abhyantara Vedata Mahatam Cha Anucharitam Varna Ashrama Vinishchaya Pramanam Andakoshasya Vayabhyantara Vedata Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashrama 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 Vinishchaya
Pramanam Andakoshasya Vayabhyantara Vedata Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashrama Vinishchaya
Pramanam Andakoshasya Vayabhyantara Vedataha Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashrama Vinishchaya
Pramanam Andakoshasya Vayabhyantara Vedata Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashrama Vinishchaya
Would anyone else online like to recite the verse? Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Pramanam. Extent and measurement. Andakoshasya. Of the universe. Vaya. Outer space. Abhyantara,
Abhyantara,
inner space,
inner space,
Vedata,
Vedata,
by division of,
by division of,
Mahatam,
Mahatam,
of the great souls,
of the great souls,
Cha,
Cha,
also,
also,
Anucharitam,
Anusharitam,
character and activities,
character and activities,
Varna,
Varna,
castes,
caste,
Ashrama,
Ashrama,
orders of life,
order of life,
Nishchaya,
Nishchaya,
specifically describe.
specifically described.
Translation. Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical devotee of Lord Krishna, and as such, he is anxious to know the complete significance of the creation of the Lord. He wants to know the inner and outer space of the universal form. It is quite fitting for the real searcher of knowledge to know all about this. Those who are of the opinion that the devotees of the Lord are satisfied with mere sentiments can find in the inquiries of Maharaj Parikshit good lessons as to how inquisitive a pure devotee is to know things in their true perfection. The modern scientist is unable to know about the inner space of the universal horizon, and what to speak of the space which covers the universe. Maharaj Parikshit is not satisfied with only material knowledge. He is inquisitive about the character and activities of the great souls, the devotees of the Lord. The glories of the Lord and the glories of his devotees combined together comprise the complete knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna showed his mother the complete universal creation within his mouth, while she, completely charmed by her son, wanted to look inside the mouth of the Lord just to see how much earth the child had eaten. By the grace of the Lord, the devotees are able to see everything in the universe within the mouth of the Lord. The very idea of the scientific divisions of 4 classes of human society and 4 orders of life is also inquired about herewith on the basis of individual personal quality. The 4 divisions are exactly like the 4 divisions of one's personal body. The parts and parcels of the body are non-different from the body, but by themselves they are only parts. That is the significance of the whole scientific system of 4 castes and 4 social orders. The value of such scientific divisions of human society can be ascertained only in terms of the proportionate development of devotional service to the Lord. Any person employed in government service, including the president, is a part and parcel of the entire government. Everyone is a government servant, but no one is the government himself. That is the position of all living entities in the government of the Supreme Lord. No one can artificially claim the supreme position of the Lord, but everyone is meant to serve the purpose of the supreme whole. Om Ganatmivandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Upakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Nainam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastapray Shribhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seveya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. So this verse reads, Pramanam Mandakoshasya Bhayabhyantara Vedata Matam Chanucharitam Varnashrama Vinishchaya. Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life. Hare Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit is continuing to ask questions to Shukadev Goswami, and this is in the context. In the next chapter, Shukadev Goswami is going to reference Brahma hearing the responses to these questions from Krishna himself. And here, so this whole chapter is entitled Questions by King Parikshit. This verse, there are questions on a range of topics about, let's call it the macrocosm, and what is transcendental to the universe itself, and what is most microscopic and macroscopic, and he's asking about the qualities of the devotees, the true Mahatmas, the great souls, and he's asking about social organization. So Prabhupada starts by saying Maharaj Parikshit is a typical devotee of Lord Krishna, meaning that the spirit soul is infused. Our natures have a spirit of discovery. It's our nature to be philosophical as spiritual beings. Having a human experience, we have the distinctive capacity to be philosophical. And as humans, we're meant to be philosophical. Philosophy means really like a love for the truth. Philo. I don't know Latin, but Philadelphia, precisely. Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, precisely. Exactly. So Phila is the love, and then Fia is like the French fils, brother, right? City of brotherly love. So philosophy means like a love for truth. It's natural to inquire with a spirit of discovery. A spirit of discovery means that like I'm sincere that I want to deepen my realization of truth. It's not just like I want to look good and see, I'm a searcher. Just like anything, like let's say if I'm searching for my car keys, okay? So I could make a whole thing like, I am searching for my car keys. I am searching. And then do you see how sincere I am? It's kind of like, well, do you really want to find your car keys? I mean, there's 3 or 4 places where there probably are. Like, you really want to find your car keys? I am searching. Okay, yeah, we get that. So it is so now, so say, well, but if you just like find your car keys, then it's like, okay, then there's no more search. No, because it's that the spirit of discovery is timeless. The spirit of discovery for the spirit soul, it's an eternal way of being. It's natural to be open-minded. Just like, okay, we gave the car keys example, or okay, an example some of you have heard me give. Just like if someone, if I say, the misconception is like, oh, if you think you know something, then you're not open-minded. So it's like, well, I know that 3 plus 3 is 6. And that's a result of my open-mindedness, right? So because I have a spirit of discovery and open-mindedness when I was 7 years old in 3rd grade or whatever, and I heard from Mrs. Gerbarg about mathematics, and I'm still open-minded. Like, look, I'm going to present you evidence. I'm going to present you pramana. I'm going to present you evidence that 3 plus 3 isn't 6. Okay, let's hear it. Still, so this open-mindedness, it is a quality, it's a virtue. And it's an instrumental virtue to come to truth, to come to universal, timeless principles of truth. And then open-mindedness continues. It's not that, oh, if you think you know something, so then you're closed-minded. So spirit of discovery, not just to show that I'm looking for my car keys, to actually find truth, and then to live truth. And then truth, we Divyagan Ride Prokashito, he reveals transcendental, truthful knowledge within our heart. So truth is infinite. Truth, like just, okay, 3 plus 3 is 6. And still the truths about the eternal principles of mathematics, they're infinite, right? So someone who's open-minded in a spirit of discovery about math can go for their whole lifetime and many lifetimes and always deepen their realization, their grasp of the truth of the principles of mathematics. And it's the same for any field, any field, including the science of self-realization. So it's our nature to be philosophical in a spirit of inquiry, and with sincerity, not just attached to the romantic image of being a searcher. Okay, that can become like a looking good spiritual mask. Not just attached to the romantic image of being a searcher. Like, I'm really interested to realize truth and to live truth, to live the truths of philosophical inquiry. And part of what Maharaj Parikshit's asking about here, he talks about great souls, the characteristics of the different classifications of castes and orders of life. So this term varna is translated as caste, and that term can have like negative connotations, like, oh, the caste system, that's so primitive and backwards, the caste system. So really, this whole varnashram. So yeah, what's become known in the name of the caste system is vitiated. I mean, it's a perverted, distorted shadow of the actual system of social organization. Really, essentially, it's a structure, it's a system for career guidance, to use a modern term, right? You go to the career guidance counselor, okay? To use, and so it's not, so it became this thing, not just now, but even hundreds of years ago. We're reading in our Chaitanya Charitamrita group about Ramananda Roy, and so he's from a very low caste, and Lord Chaitanya is not instructing him. Lord Chaitanya is submitting himself for like a whole week to be Ramananda Roy's student. And Ramananda Roy, even though he was a low caste, he had a powerful position in government, and he was surrounded by Brahmins, and the Brahmins were like, why is this sannyasi Brahmin submitting himself to hear from Ramananda Roy, who's very, because, yeah, so Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vanyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha Tasyakartam Apimam Vijakartam Aviyam. So Krishna says, yeah, so this social system, this career, it's a career guidance system. This career, that's what it is. It's career guidance in modern terms. It's not based on janma. It is based on guna, means one's qualities and activities. So whatever one's birth, what's the situation of their heart? And that's how we determine for ourselves, and we determine, yeah, what's a person's, including myself, what's our quality and our activity, and it's a compassionate career guidance system, because the idea is one engages, one works according to our psychophysical propensity, and then we're naturally happy and satisfied. And that's a foundation. That's a foundation for progressing towards the ultimate aim of human life, progressing towards realizing who I am as ultimately not this psychophysical nature, as spirit, soul, as servant of the Supreme. And so that's why it's all about, it's very compassionate system. And and yes, after high school, 17 years old, I went into engineering. Sometimes Marie will say, or at least she thinks, that the best thing that David ever did for the world is to not become an engineer.
Sure. That's really a scary thought.
It doesn't mean she doesn't appreciate other things I've contributed. But as far as the best thing I've ever done is to not become a civil engineer and design bridges and things.
Yeah.
So, also at 17 years old, also at 17, it's a story I've told once in a while here in classes, but I remember even though I was an engineering student, I took a class in humanities and philosophy, and we had a professor, it was at Penn State University, 1978, and his name was Professor Lingus, and I remember he told a story, and it impacted me, and so, yes, yeah, he was like this far out philosophy professor. This was 1978. He would talk about like taking LSD trips and things like that. So he was this far out philosophy professor. You're like, whoa, okay. So, and I imagine he was maybe about 40 years old at the time. I was in my late teens. And, but he was like a worldly person. He made a visit to India. And he was telling the story. He made a visit to India, and during India, like happens with many Westerners, he got terribly ill. He got terribly sick. And so he was just, this unmentionable, terrible suffering, like he thought he was going to die and this and that. So he was on some like boat in the Ganges, sort of like and he describes that like he was dysfunctional, and yeah, so he was just this foolish Westerner and got sick. Didn't know what to eat and drink and got sick. And he said, so there was this woman caring for him. And this woman, and she was like cleaning his stool, his bedpan, like this most menial activity. And the way he described, and I could tell he was very deeply moved, he described that he never experienced in his life at Penn State University, he never experienced anyone as peaceful and content as this woman who was cleaning his bedpan. Yeah. And so she was just completely satisfied, and it impressed me. It was 43 years ago, but it made an impression on me. you know, because I could see how moved this professor was, that she had something that no one in the Western world that he'd ever encountered, and he was a very worldly person, he'd ever seen. She wasn't striving to climb the corporate ladder. She wasn't this and that. So of course, I don't know the details of this woman, but we could see that she was, we can imagine, she was just situated in her Varna and practicing spiritual life, situated in her Varna, practicing spiritual life. And because, so this whole Varna ashram system, it's a science. And importantly, as far as progressing in conscious living and self-realization and love of Krishna, it's not recommended for this age to really primarily focus on Varnashram. Again, in our Chaitanya Charitamrita study group, we're on chapter 8 in the Madhya Lila. And Lord Chaitanya, as a student, he asked Ramananda Roy, what's the highest form of practice and worship? And Ramananda Roy immediately starts with Varnashram. Varnashram. So it's a dance between them. And Lord Chaitanya says, Varnashram, no, I don't accept that. And then he's like testing the student. And this happens in Bhagavatam. In the sixth canto, Maharaj Parikshit has just heard in the fifth canto about hellish planets, hellish places of existence. And then Maharaj Parikshit starts the sixth canto by saying, so how could we avoid going to those places? And Shukadeva Goswami, he says, oh yeah, so he starts with like, yes, that you perform sacrifice to counteract negative activity. And Maharaj Parikshit says, no, I don't accept, try again. And then Shukadeva Goswami says, oh yes, Jnana Yoga. And Maharaj Parikshit says, no. So it's similar with Lord Chaitanya. So Ramananda Roy, he says, well, what about this? What about that? So they're testing the student. And so the first thing Ramananda Roy says is Varnashram. You know, it means like expert career guidance. And Lord Chaitanya says, no, because the idea is like, for this age, it's not, that's like the very traditional Vedic system. The idea is that wherever someone's at, if someone's naturally a laborer, an intellectual, and then you work your way up the Varnashram system, and then this term Brahmin. Brahmin means one who's Brahmin realized, one who's spiritually realized. And then one starts at what's called the Brahman feature of God. And then one becomes a yogi, Paramatma feature. Then one gets Bhagavan realization, Bhagavans. So that process is not practical for this age. It's not practical for this age. So this age that we're, because the goal of those yoga processes, the goal of all the processes is to do Sankirtan. Is to Yage Sankirtana Yajanti Sumedasa. So in this age, through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yage Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshtam, Yage Sankirtana Yajanti Sumedasa, that Lord Chaitanya, through Srila Prabhupada, they're giving us this direct, the goal. Just go immediately towards the goal. Otherwise, we can get lost in kind of like what's my Varna. Some of you have heard me share. It was Ireland, 2004, and we were conducting a Safetov Foundational Advanced Seminar. Crazy seminar. And anyhow, Kalyapani was there. The late great Kalyapani was there. And he was staffing, and it was day 2 of the foundational, and all the participants went on break, and he came to me and he said, this is Varnashram. So it was very meaningful for me because he's been around Prabhupada's movement since like 1971, which means that he's heard like 800 classes on Varnashram. And his conclusion is no one really knows what it is or how to apply it. Because there's some like, yeah, I mean, we can get theoretical and like, yeah, theoretically, this is what a classless society is really about. Varnashram means that from wherever you're at, whatever, everyone has equal opportunity to serve God with love and devotion. That's equality. That's equality. And so psychophysically, let's place ourselves where we're satisfied. Just like in any organization, family, or team, right? If someone's like doing a function that like they're not really cut out to do, maybe because there's some ego or there's some games going on. So I'll be in this position, but you're not really cut out to be in that position, then the whole thing is off kilter, right? So that's so the Varnashram system, if we study it, it includes and transcends all that is good about different social organization systems. Okay, like communism, yes. So put God in the center. Anarchy, right? Real intellectuals, they advocate anarchy, freedom, anarchy. And anarchy is an effective system. Anarchy is an effective system as long as no one in the society has any lust, greed, or envy. It works great. It does. Yeah, so that's, in a sense, Brahminical social organization is anarchy. That's why the Brahmins, they're above the Kshatriyas, the politicians, because the Brahmins, if the Brahmins just do what they feel, it's naturally going to be good for everyone because they're in that sattvic mode. They're in that sattvic mode. Okay, but for most of the society, including Brahmins who are Brahmins in name only, then there's all this lust, greed, and I'm going to cheat and like that. So then that's why there's laws and things like that. Or capitalism. So there's the whole Vaishya class. It's built on capitalism. For you, because you're my friend, I make no profit. Come on, you say that to everyone. Of course you make profit. Your whole life is built around profit. Okay, so, but that's okay. There's a place in that for Varnashram, and there's a place for anarchy, and there's a place for communism, there's a place for monarchy, and so it includes and transcends all that which is good about all the systems. And so to try to kind of like artificially transplant it from 5,000 years ago, the Vedic age, to the 21st century Europe or Florida, it's like, but the essence, when Kalyapani said, this is Varnashram, because he was there in the midst of a Safatov seminar, and everyone was like connecting truly with where they were at. And he's like, that's the essence. That's the essence to be authentic and honest of, yes, here's what's true for me. And you see that, especially like most everyone in that seminar identified as devotees. And so actually I overheard a talk between my son Abhimanyu and Ramachandra the other day. I was in my room, but it was about a week ago. And because Abhi's a counselor in Gainesville, and he was saying, yeah, well, as far as what I can see, devotees and non-devotees, they're the same. It's like, they're all dealing with the same stuff. But Abhi is wrong, because my experience is, for the most part, the devotees have a few extra layers of masks. Excuse me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, like Ramachandra is smiling. I don't know why he's smiling. Okay, so what I was saying, as far as I know, all dealing with the same stuff, you know. Of course, if one gets into true, pure devotion, that's another consideration. But so Kalyapani was moved that like, everyone was dropping their masks. And this is the essence of Varnashram. That's why he came and he said, this is Varnashram. And like he got realization after 35 years of hearing different classes about it and giving classes about it. So um, so it's about, what's the situation of someone's heart? Because whether it's Varnashram system, whether it's philosophical inquiry, the idea, the ultimate, is to come to get some drop of a feeling that, yes, I have some affection. I want to engage in serving the Supreme Personality of God. I want to engage in serving God. That's the goal of all the yoga, all the social systems. What's the quality of the guna? What's the quality of the heart? Just a quick caste story that comes to me. This was the first time I visited India was 1988. No, that was the only time I visited India and did not conduct a seminar. So I actually went to some holy places not to conduct a seminar. Which so anyhow, it was my only time in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya. It's a holy place from the eternal times. Anyhow, so at the Jagannath Puri temple, so it's a very sacred place, and the priests have a material conception. I'm just saying this, I'm just following Prabhupada and saying the priests have a material conception of it's all based on birth. And so people with like this color skin cannot go into the Jagannath Puri temple. Okay. So it was a group of us, some from Israel, some from Holland. Okay. And so we were standing outside the Jagannath Puri temple, we were chanting, and there was one with us. His name was Madan Mohan Das. He was Indian bodied. He was from Holland, Amsterdam. He was an accountant. I remember him, very nice devotee, and he was Indian bodied. So he was like, oh, I can go in, because like that. And then he came back a few minutes later, and we go, because it was pretty quick. So like, no, he didn't go in. I go, what happened? And he said, because they said, the priest said, you cannot come in. He said, look, I got the right color skin and everything. And they said, no, we saw you standing with them. I'm not joking. We saw you standing with them. Those
Next shot.
below them leches. Below them leches like that. And so, so that's so it's not for me to judge what's in those priests' heart, but to make the criticism I'm making that they are very materially, they have a material vision. I'm just following Prabhupada, but Prabhupada did not at all agree with it, because that goes against the whole Vaishnava. It goes against the whole principle of Bhagavatam. We say Haridas Thakur is the Acharya. He's the prime example of chanting Hare Krishna. We say Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. And he was from a Muslim family, which is again like a very low caste from the birth point of view. But Lord Chaitanya Advaitacharya, so actually, even in the time of Haridas Thakur, 500 years ago or so, they wouldn't let him in the temple because he didn't have the right birth. So Lord Chaitanya and his followers, they did not do a protest. They did not do a protest movement in that instance. At other instances, Lord Chaitanya did protest, like in Navadvip with the Chankazi. But at Jagannath, he didn't do a protest. What he did was he arranged for an apartment for Haridas Thakur near the temple, where Haridas Thakur could see the chakra at the top of the temple. And just by seeing the chakra, then he's associating with the Jagannath deity. And what Lord Chaitanya did during his years at Jagannath Puri, every day he would personally get the prasad, the lunch prasad, from the Jagannath temple, and he would personally deliver it to Haridas Thakur. So the priest prevented Haridas Thakur from seeing the deity in the temple. And so the personified deity himself, Lord Chaitanya, served Haridas Thakur lunch every day. Okay. So this whole thing, it's Krishna consciousness. It's not based on anything external. It's not based on anything material. It's not based on birth. It's not based on socioeconomic status. It's not based on gender. It's not based on age. It's based on what's the quality of the heart. What's the quality of the heart? And so this gets at the essence. Yes, at the very essence. That all that, so like Srila Prabhupada gave us a process called sadhana. Because, yeah, we can, some people go, well, what's my service? What's my service? So, and this, what's my service? That can be a healthy inquiry. And it can also get to be a sort of confusion grungy. Just like I can be attached to, I'm a searcher. Okay. How serious are you to really find truth and live it, and really commit to it? Similarly, somebody's like, I'm so sincere, I just want to know my service, but I don't know. Come on. Actually, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pridipurvakam tadami buddha yogam tam yena mamu piyantite. Krishna says, if one is sincere from within the heart, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to self-realization, and they can come to me. As a general principle, as we cultivate sattvic habits and consciousness, then all the muddle and confusion goes away. If we really want to know how I can serve God today in this lifetime, it will be revealed. And not even just like if we expose ourselves to transcendental sound vibration, just like, you know, in the dark at night, everything is, we can't see things very clearly. But even the dawn, the first few moments of sunrise, then everything's clear. That's like sattva. It's like sattva. Cultivate sattvic habits. Okay, it's not like the noon sun blazing in the sky, but things are clear just in the first few moments of sunrise, like that. And so, Srila Prabhupada, representing Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadev Goswami, gave us a process of sadhana. And the more we discipline ourselves to commit to it, then the joy of the heart naturally emerges, and we get clarity. When I say clarity, yeah, it might be that in this age, I don't know exactly what my varna is. That's okay. It's kind of the recommendation is, yeah, that like let's just like do our best to engage ourselves in a way that we're happy in our job, service, like that, and at the same time not to get too absorbed in it, but practice sadhana, cultivate transcendental realization of who we are as that eternal spirit soul that's not connected with this body, not to do an artificial transcendence, and at the same time not to get too hung up on what's my psychophysical nature and like that. And yeah, and again, as we cultivate sattvic habits and transcendental practices like hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then the muddle goes away. Just like if there's fog and mist, the sun comes up and it just dissipates the fog and mist. It dissipates the fog and mist. We are the creators of our Maya. We can say Krishna is, but we are the creators of our Maya. And we're all, just like Krishna is like the sun, Krishna Surya Saya Maya Haya Andakar, the spirit soul is also like a sun. And as we get like intensive Rena Bhakti Yogina, as we become more and more intense to shine, to be like a shining diamond in sincere devotional service with some feeling in the heart, then the fog and the muddle goes away. And yeah, this feeling in the heart to serve God with love and devotion. So someone can say, okay, David Wolf, Dhira Govinda Das, so do you have that feeling in the heart? You've been practicing like 40 years now, at least taking prasad 40 years, chanting japa for about 38. So do you have a feeling in the heart to serve Krishna? No, not really. So you say, well, that's kind of discouraging. That's kind of disheartening. But then Krishna, he sets up the spiritual master system. And that's because Krishna understands how kind of thick our insincerity is. So I can definitely say, I do have some feeling in the heart to serve Srila Prabhupada. That's true for me. And that's growing. Krishna, I don't know. Even Lord Chaitanya, I don't know. But I definitely have some feeling like, like I have some emotional feeling. I want to serve Srila Prabhupada. I want to serve his mission. And that's a system that Krishna sets up. That's serve me through my devotee. So I can say experientially that is developing in my consciousness. That is developing, and that's a special gift. So the verse reads, Ramanam anda koshasya bhayabhyantara vedata matam chanucharitam varnashrama vinishchaya. Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls, and also the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life. There are big parts of the verses I didn't even get to, like the qualities of the devotees, which is such a key part of Bhagavatam. I'll stop there, and I'll welcome at this time if anyone has any questions or comments.
I have a question.
Ramachandra, if you could speak loud enough for everyone.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. The last portion really touched me. I was surprised, like, okay, what Dhira is going to say now that he's not feeling anything. That it is very disheartening. being barely a decade on the way, trying to have some bliss, and you already 4 decades. Like, oh, it's never going to happen for me then. But yeah, I heard it I remember from another devotee that he asked Prabhupada, because especially in early days, there would be no books, and Prabhupada would stress thinking about Krishna and meditate on Krishna, but devotees, they didn't even have a Krishna book or nothing.
The very early days, yeah.
And then Prabhupada acknowledged the question, and from what the devotee shared was that if you think about me, that's as good as thinking about Krishna. And if you love me, Krishna's love is there. So, and my question is about the sincerity, which I feel it's kind of like an oxymoron in a sense. Like, how can you be more sincere than you already are? And I mean, what I experienced in Sattvato, like the seminars and personal growth, it is really stimulating the sincerity. And yet I wonder, like, how to be more sincere, how to dive deeper into this sincerity, serving the spiritual master.
Thanks for sharing and asking. I'm assuming you heard Ramachandra. Yes, okay, thank you. And yeah, so Ramachandra shared that he was, I know he's had a lot of talks in association with some of the very early devotees, like from 1966, and sharing a pastime with Prabhupada about that. And I'll just, because the way you worded it is like, how will I ever get bliss? I experience bliss, not real steadily, but because I as the years go on, I'm experiencing more and more like affection for Srila Prabhupada. I'm like, I really want to please this person. And like, I can just replace Krishna for Srila Prabhupada. Nah, I'm not there. But I really want to please this person. And when I'm in that, I'm experiencing spiritual joy. So So I'm happy, and that's, it's not just like a fluke. That's the system Krishna set up. And we please Prabhupada, Krishna's pleased. Maybe I'm not connected with Krishna being pleased. I'm more connected with what pleases Prabhupada. But that's the system Krishna set up. Yeah, and then
Prabhupada knows how to please Krishna.
yes, this is a key point. It's a key point. And I was talking to someone not too long ago, and she was maybe for more than a dozen years exposed to Krishna consciousness, had a natural attraction. It was like me and Krishna, me and Krishna. And but then she noticed after many years, like she's not really getting anywhere. She's not really getting anywhere. And then what was missing is, it's not, if there's no, was that we serve Krishna, we cultivate our relationship with Krishna by serving the soul who knows perfectly how to please Krishna. So that's Srila Prabhupada. If someone says, well, for me, it's someone else. Okay, I mean, the principle is there. It doesn't need to be Prabhupada. Prabhupada's definitely 100% sure option. But the principle is, what's that?
Solid option.
Solid, infallible.
I'm fine.
Infallible. Yeah, and so, but I have another pure devotee of Krishna. Okay, we're not arguing that. So then she said, that's what was missing, Prabhupada. Like she decided not to go through Prabhupada. And then after a decade, she realized, I'm not getting anywhere. So it's getting realization. So, yeah, then how to be more sincere? Well, I think, by sincerely asking that sort of question. By silly, we don't want to be artificial. Like I'm as sincere as I am. I'm as sincere as I am. And like, I really want pure devotional service. No, I don't. I want other things like that. Yes. And so then so that's like from where we're at, then we can ask, we can pray, like I'm a sincere, I have 2% sincerity or whatever it is, or 0% sincerity, but 20%, I sort of want to be sincere from wherever we're at. Okay, when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we chant, then we can, that can be part of our spirit. My dear Lord Krishna, my dear Srila Prabhupada, please give me some sincerity. Please give me more sincerity today than yesterday to really want to please you from wherever we're at. Thank you, Ramachandra. Any other comments or questions? Damayanti.
Thank you for the class, Hare Krishna. You were speaking about the foundational seminar and being Varnashram. Well, I was curious what that means, and also when is the next foundational seminar?
Oh, these are hard questions. You're asking hard questions. Okay, so thank you. Well, what's that mean? It's a comment Kayapani Prabhu made to me back in 2004 in Dublin, or earlier than that, in the year 2000, we taught a foundational in Belfast. And so what he was saying, that because the essence of Varnashram is to meet ourselves where we're at. And so that's why, like, the empathy, it's supporting each other to meet ourselves and meet each other where we're at. And that's the essence. In different devotional societies, sometimes there would be whole philosophies and ideas, and the idea is like, because the idea is everyone serves the Brahmins, so then everyone would try to put themselves as a Brahmin, and things like that. And so the essence of Varnashram is authentically meeting ourselves where we're at, not authentically, not complacently. And experiencing where I'm at, my psychophysical nature, as a platform for spiritual growth, for progressing in Krishna consciousness. So that's what Kalyapani meant, that more than any time he'd ever seen there in the seminar, and there was about like 35 people. We had like 12 staff members. There were like 50 people in the room, and just like everyone was supporting each other to take down the masks and be real, be genuine. Next foundational, well, yeah, it's the whole thing of as far as in-person seminars. You have, Malini wants, do you want to comment, Malini?
No, I want to see what she's saying.
What's that you want to hear?
The next one will happen when someone organizes.
Yeah, like
That's important, right?
I'm ready to facilitate in person. As you know, Damayanti, in the past 10 months, even 8 months, we've developed 4 new Safetov online seminars, and they've been hugely successful, powerfully successful. And at the same time, I am ready to facilitate in person, and I know that's true for Malini too.
Mexico.
Okay, so like if Ramachandra wants to bring us to Mexico, I'm ready. Someone wants to organize an in-person in Alachua. There is an in-person foundational seminar on the calendar. Personally, I'm skeptical whether it will happen, but that's just me. And it's in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia.
Duh.
Felix Feldstein is, he's planning, and he's given us dates in October of this year to bring Malini and I to Nizhny Novgorod. He brought us there in 2015. And he's someone who, like, if he says something, he follows through. In 2017, he brought us to Massachusetts. So personally, I'm skeptical whether the whole pandemic thing, either the pandemic or the perception or whatever, will allow free international travel at that time. But it's actually on the calendar in October. But really, and we've had many approach us. Even Malini spoke to me 2 days ago. A friend of ours for decades is talking seriously to bring a foundational seminar to his organization, his company, in person. So we're ready, and we're ready for someone to organize, whether it's Mexico, Russia, Alachua. So that's what's happening with foundational and advanced seminars in person. Thank you, Damayanti. Parampara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I appreciate, I've heard you share about Kalyapani comment before about the advanced course, and I have some realization of that and appreciation. And I'm glad to have that reminder, because when you started sharing about Varnashram, I kind of went back into my experience of, Prabhupada speaks about it so much. Is my sound okay, or is it not too good?
Fine, I'm hearing you fine.
Okay. Prabhupada speaks about it so much, so many classes, Varnashram, and I was kind of going into that place, like, why does he talk about it so much? How are we supposed to use this? And so I appreciate that reminder to not think of it so much in terms of, just transporting it here to our time and culture and place and circumstances. And at the same time, I wonder, because Kalyapani was speaking to the essence of Varnashram is like people meeting themselves where they're at and finding a way to connect to God wherever they're at in their own way, in whatever sincerity, whatever level of sincerity you do have. There's a way for everyone to be in the process, no matter where you're at, no matter if you're serious or not, or no matter if you're even conscious of it. Someone could just be engaged in menial service just for a job, but they're doing it to, if the organization is spiritually minded, then even that person who's just working there to get money to, feed their family, they're going to get purification. They're engaged in the process. So then aside from the essence, could you maybe speak a little bit to like the value of the practical application of Varnashram And I'm thinking for myself, just recently, I think in a coaching session with you, I was, and not to say this is still kind of an essential thing, not necessarily just transporting it black and white over into our culture, but I was thinking like, well, in my career, I'm doing kind of Sudra work in a sense, but there's like Vaishya, it's Sudra work, but I am a Vaishya in the sense that I'm, have a business, and maybe there's some Kshatriya energy there also because I'm needing to manage people and things like that. But really, the Brahminical part is missing for me. And so that was kind of like a practical application. Looking at myself, still, it's not just black and white transporting over, but that's something that came to mind.
Thank you, Brahmpara. And I'm not quite sure where to go with that, but yeah, for you personally, you're noticing that the Brahminical aspect is missing. You have a strong intellect, philosophical propensity like that, psychology, and like you're sensing, you're experiencing. Yeah, you're not kind of using enough of that part of yourself. So it doesn't mean that, then it's hopeless. And whatever your level of psychophysical satisfaction, chant Hare Krishna, serve Prabhupada's movement, and at the same time, making endeavor to use more parts of yourself. And that's the thing. Like, it's not this kind of just like a blind transport, just like, I don't know much about horticulture and things, but let's say there's a big tree. Okay, and well, let's just pick up the tree and put it over there. It probably wouldn't work. It would probably die. And it's probably quite a science to like really transplant a tree and get the roots so that the water and this and that. So just like, I mentioned engineering. I entered mechanical engineering and at 17 years old. Okay, so engineering, what varna is that? It's not a clear thing, right?
Shudra.
Okay, so they're just like, look, I entered it with Sudra mentality. Because my idea was, I get the degree, but it's more complex than that. Okay, I get the degree, then I get some job and I get a paycheck and I'll work for some company or the government. So that's very Sudra. It's very Sudra. Okay, but then there could be someone who's like, I'll get my engineering degree and then I'll develop my own business, my own consulting business. And that way, that way I can make a 7-figure income, not just a 6-figure income. That's like Vaishya, right? And then someone could be in engineering, and maybe their thing isn't even primarily money, or just like, let me just work at a job and go home and watch TV. Maybe
I want to control people.
I want to control people. Wait, like, maybe it'll be my own thing, maybe someone else's, but I'll have 100 engineers working under my direction, and that's where they get their juice. And then there can be someone else who gets into engineering, and they're really, really into the essence of the physics and the math, like that. And that actually, because my most interesting courses for those years were the pure math, calculus, and things like that. That was really interesting for me. And then it's like I'm really into the conceptualization of architectural engineering, and it's not so much controlling people or money, but like even I'm ready to work overtime to just understand this concept from physics. So then they're engineering, and it's Brahminical, like that. So it's not a clear transplant, and so so I'm hearing Prabhupada. You're noticing there is something in you that's unsatisfied, and you're doing coaching about it, and that's this relates, because I said, like, if we're sincere, there's really not much place other than maybe for a few minutes here and there. I'm so sincere, but I don't know what to know. If we're sincere, we'll get realization of how to serve and how to practice, and the realization we get might not be comfortable. And I think that relates to your process, Parampara. You're sincere, and in order to engage more of your God-given propensities, in your service, in your job, in your career, you need to get uncomfortable. And I know you know that. You need to get uncomfortable. You need to get out of a comfort zone that's comfortable but not fulfilling, or not real fulfilling. And so because you're sincere, you're getting realization of knowing where you need to go, and it requires some heavy lifting, or a lot of heavy lifting. So thanks for sharing your process.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that personal reflection, my personal experience, and yeah, I appreciate that because in my experience, I was thinking, there's like the practical application where it's maybe like there's been some devotees that's like, okay, we got all these Brahmins, we need Kshatriyas, so let's do Kshatriya warrior training. We need actual Kshatriyas in Prabhupada's movement. And that's like the kind of just like the blind transporting over. And then when you speak about Sattva-tov being Varnashram, it's like, I get that. And then it's kind of maybe too essential or too, ethereal, at least my conception of it is like, yeah, I get that. But then like, okay, where's the practical middle ground between those two? I think it's like and I'm getting, it's what, I was sharing about and what you're sharing about too. And there's not a black and white, but we can there is a way to practically, bring Varnashram into our lives and kind of use it as a tool to explore ourselves and kind of look and kind of categorize the world and our work and our services. And so thank you.
Thank you, Parampara. Anandini.
Yes, I'm inspired by your class and the discussion here. And what came to my mind with Ramchandra's question and also now Parampara's question, Malini posted a lecture by Richard Rohr, and I listened to it today. And someone asked like a similar question about sincerity and about like understanding how to get closer to God, how to get love of God, and like, and his response was like if when we start to really look at our pain and our hurt, we no longer like pour it over on our loved ones in ugly ways, but we take responsibility for it and really experience that pain and transform it. Then life is going to teach us to be sincere.
Thanks for that, Anandini. And so that's from a lecture from Richard Rohr, Malini posted, and yeah, that's beautiful, and that's just what we're speaking about. Prampra, I did hear your last comment. Yes, thank you. And yes, that's the experience. My experience is it's not meant to be just some new age, touchy-feely thing. Feel my feelings, but be alive, be present with my experience, and then I'm not going to be inclined out of numbing my experience to take my hurt and pain to wound others in my life. Experience my experience, and then there's guidance there, there's message there. Malini.
I was just wanting to build up on what Parampara was saying about the Varnashram and the application.
Yeah.
And the way I see the connection between what we do with Sattva-tov Institute and Varnashram is that Varnashram is supporting people to understand their psychophysical nature,
yeah,
and to accept it. For example, the example you gave of that woman who was cleaning the stool of that teacher.
Yeah.
She was fully satisfied.
Yeah.
And so much of what we are built with in modern society, capitalism, all that, is to the opposite. It's like from the young age, children go to school and you're someone important if you're good in math.
Yeah.
Even the people, when I was in school, even those who were good at writing, they were not that important. In high school,
math and
like
science.
The math and science. Yeah. So there is all that's built up, that super disconnection from being satisfied being situated where we are supposed to be situated. Like if we are Shudra and helping others, that's great.
Yeah.
There's no judgment. There is no, it's not less than anything else. So if we are, you know, businessmen and we accept, that's who I am. I'm going to have fun making money. That's okay that I'm a Vaishya.
Yes.
And I do believe that within the Sattva environment, there is a lot of space for that kind of authenticity, honesty, to meet myself where I am at and not need to be more than what I have or different. Because as long as I'm trying to do someone else's job because it looks better, because it looks good, because that's where I get the name and fame, then I'm going to be miserable.
And I'll make others miserable.
And I make myself miserable. That's where I get my pain. I'm going to dump my pain on others instead of like, I love being a household wife. I love cleaning, cooking, and that's true. Instead of feeling pressure, like I need to do something else. Or I love cleaning cars or whatever it is. And so I believe that the Sattva process, and what I understood from Kalyapani, is that he helps in that people accept that, that's Nirvana. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what's going to take me back to Godhead, because I have at that level of fulfillment, satisfaction that's conducive to build up spiritual life.
Beautiful. Thanks for that.
The practicality of it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a comment too from Patrick, to Parampara, about where, like, how to, like, it's just like an idea that sprouted in my mind when he was sharing about the Kshatriyas, like how, like, we can do that within Sattva, because I mean the whole thing of like military art and all these things are not really part of anyone's training. Like even I tried and it's not my thing.
It didn't go so well for you.
No. And I what comes to me is like buying land, purchasing land, and doing projects like opening a huge retreat center for Sattvato, so we don't have to depend on like other retreat centers that not allow.
That's the Kshatriya spirit. Management. I'm inspired by your Kshatriya vision. Thank you.
And there is some people who like to go to the army and like to learn about guns and shooting and defending and protecting.
Gajendra.
It wasn't your thing.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'm just sort of, I guess, wondering out loud a little bit. And, when I think of Varnashram, there's, the different ways to consider it. And maybe it's been discussed already some today. But, there's, someone can think of Varnashram and they can jump to sort of like, well, it's an institutional aspect. It's how the mass of society should try to deliberately organize itself. And here's the rules and regulations. And then there's the other way of Varnashram, which is not so much man is trying to institute anything or work anything, but it's more just recognition of what's natural. Whether you label someone a Brahmin and here's the rules and regulations of a Brahmin or not, just is the to the extent this person's conditioned, are there modes of nature predominated by goodness, and that's a Brahmin, right? It's not. It's just a natural manifestation that's recognized. In every living being, every person, to the extent that's conditioned, is affected by a mix of the modes of material nature.
Yeah, mix.
So you can kind of it's like I was listening to your example before when we were talking to Parampara, like, well, here's engineering, and you could approach engineering as this, kind of suja or vice versa. but every individual is going to have that mix, and whatever their conditional needs are, can be gratified. So it's like, and then there's the transcendence. And I was thinking earlier of like, maybe it was Jayananda, or maybe it was Satsarup or whatever, but like Prabhupada kind of at one point, it wasn't a material duty, it was a spiritual duty, like, but Prabhupada wanted them to like kind of continue to work. Or maybe it was Satsarup with his job in maybe social services or something, or Jayananda driving a cab or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know that there was anything to do with their conditioning into modes of material nature at that point. They probably didn't want to do it materially, but they were.
Yeah, just for everyone who might not be familiar with those examples, there's many examples where followers of Prabhupada, they had some job in social services, and they were ready to just be full-time serve Prabhupada in that directly, and Prabhupada he's directly instructed Garga Muni, no, I want you to do business in your father's business, or Satsrup, stay in social services. So you're thinking that might not be about psychophysical nature. That's more about it was their transcendental service, just like it was Arjuna's transcendental service to fight the battle.
So yeah, I'm not sure that I have an exact point. I'm just been listening and pondering, and it's it's really just going to come down to like, well, what's our prime directive, so to speak, and that's just bhakti, and acting devotionally in the from the consciousness of our heart, really, and wanting to serve. And it's so really, if that's whatever supports that, is the right thing. And any other consideration, like we shouldn't have like a secondary consideration, like, oh, I want to be a Brahmin, or I want to be this or that, so therefore I have to do this. It's really just a very practical thing. And I guess I kind of go more in the direction that, Vaishnavas are transcendental. And that's really what I look at. And as part of that, de-emphasizing the institutional aspects, it's like Prabhupada, I mean, he made us aware of a lot of things about the rules and regulations, but, he gave like 4 regulative, prohibitory principles, and, chanting, and then he introduced us to other things that could be filled out, but obviously it wasn't like super important what you're doing as far as your work, or what you're not doing as far as your work. And so it becomes that individual journey that we all make, Parampara's making, of just trying to be devotionally situated. But I definitely de-emphasize the material structure, and emphasize more what's the bottom line of devotion. Sometimes we have to be really bold about those things, even in making changes in our life,
Thanks for that, Gajendra Prabhu. I like your language. Prime directive, bottom line. That's the bhakti. Yes, Prabhupada did not at all emphasize external social structures or rules or regulations in relation to varnas. What's going to serve our devotion. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.